Hey everybody, welcome back to another Let's Talk About Movies We Own, where me and my wife Shelby
Hi everyone.
talk about the over 1,200 movies we own on DVD and Blu-ray. And as right now, we're going over our Disney section of movies. This is part 4, surprisingly, and I think we've still probably got another 3 or 4 episodes of Disney before we go on to anything else. But we have gone over action and adventure, comedy, animation, and I think that's in holiday and horror. So if you want to check those out, definitely go and check them out. We are now deep in the letter M for Disney movies. We're about a little over halfway done now. And we're just going to give our thoughts on each of the movies we own. And if there's any movies that we leave out, it may be because we own them on VHS or we just have not gotten around to buying them yet. So definitely leave something in the comments if we go to the next letter and we miss a movie that you wanted us to talk about, and I'll let you know one way or another.
So for this coming up section of movies, I don't have a lot to say for the first few because they're all bin movies. Every single last one of these first 8 or so are just straight up bin, so you're not going to hear much from me.
But you have seen them, so I'm going to ask your opinions on them. Some of them you've seen multiple times. All right, and so without further ado, let's talk about The Muppets. Yay! So first one, of course, is The Muppet Movie. It's a classic. I do like the intro where it's like in a theater, like they're watching the movie that they made, I guess, or acted in. Love all the celebrity cameos. The music is great. Of course, the villain is fun, and I don't think there's anything I have to say about this one that everybody hasn't already said about this one. It is also Jim Henson did mention in interviews, and people have pointed out this does take a bit after The Wizard of Oz, which, funny enough, is one of my favorite films. So it's not, so the Muppet Movie is not my favorite of the Muppet movies, but it is definitely up there. You've seen this one at least once, I know.
Is this the one we watched with the baby nephews?
I don't know. Maybe. But we've seen it together without anybody else as well.
I'm okay with it.
Mm-hmm. I know you're not a big fan of Muppets because of Miss Piggy.
I really can't stand Miss Piggy.
Yeah, no, I get it. But this is the one that has, of course, where we get introduced to stuff like Rainbow Connection and I'm Going to Go Back There Someday.
I mean, the songs are good. It's just, I'm not a huge fan of the Muppets in a movie.
Fair enough. So you like more of them on shows?
I like it like when it's more episodic and it's more of a show because it minimizes my chance of Miss Piggy.
Your favorite show is Electric Mayhem, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
1, it's adorable. 2,
no Miss Piggy. Fair enough. So next is The Great Muppet Caper, and this is probably like my second favorite Muppet movie, and that's probably because of nostalgia glasses, because this was like the first Muppet movie I ever owned and like I bought. So we had this antique store. It's no longer there. That's in like Florence. It's in South Carolina. It was a big antique store, but it was mostly like old antiques. But they did have this one tiny little section, one little booth that had little VHSs that you could buy. And one of them was The Great Muppet Caper. And they were like a couple bucks because that's how cheap VHSs were back then in the early 2000s. And I just got an allowance and I enjoyed the Muppets. And, you know, we had gone there a couple times and they really just didn't have anything that I'd be interested in. And suddenly, lo and behold, there's a Muppet movie. And it's one I had not heard of. So parents were okay with me buying it, of course. So I bought it and, you know, absolutely fall in love with it. It's got one of the more interesting plots. It is a diamond heist spy movie. So it's got a lot of those tropes in there. The main, like, human actors, I don't think I've ever seen them in anything else. I'm sure they have been in other movies, but I always find it interesting is, like, usually for these movies, the Jim Henson liked getting, like, big, well-known, comedic actors, whereas this one, I'm like, the only person that I recognize for the celebrity cameos was John Cleese for the one scene. And I guess you could count Oscar the Grouch as well if you wanted to. But everybody else, and of course Jim Henson himself stars in, not stars, but quickly shows his face in this one. But other than that, I'm like, it's not like the Muppet movie where I'm like, oh yeah, I know him, I know her, I know them, I know. This is one I'm like looking on IMDb as like, have I seen them in anything? What were they in? A lot of them were probably British or UK actors, so they, because takes place in England, so that may be the reason why I didn't recognize them. But the music is still great. Happiness Hotel is still one of my favorite songs. I just like that scene in general. It's great. This is also kind of like the beginning, not the full beginning, but it's kind of like the slow introduction to Rizzo the Rat. He makes a tiny little brief cameo in this. But yeah, I don't know if you've seen this one.
I have seen it. I don't really remember anything about it. The only thing I associate it with is the Muppet Racing game, because there is an entire level where you're racing around the Happiness Hotel.
Mm-hmm.
And my brothers and I used to play that game all the freaking time.
So Muppet Takes Manhattan is the next one. This is like the first Muppet movie I bought on DVD. So I still have some nostalgia for it. Not so much because it is kind of a retread of the Muppet movie. Which I never understood why we did the Muppet movie plot 3 times, if you believe it or not. We'll get to that one in a minute. But yeah, it's this time they're like out of college, but then they're also still trying to get together and get famous and put on a show. We're back in America, so we've got more of the celebrity cameos that I would recognize, or people that grew up with those shows and movies from that time would recognize, because you got like Columbo showing up for a second, and man, I forget his name, but he's in History of the World Part 1 there, not Mel Brooks, but the other dude does the sand dance, but yeah. So, this is more introduction to Rizzo. I think he's got like a tiny speaking role in this. Interesting enough, there's not a lot of Gonzo in this, which is like one of my favorite characters. Yeah, they show that he like basically does like Daredevil work for a little while, but It's more of a Kermit and Miss Piggy sort of movie, mainly just a Kermit movie. So yeah, I would put this one like mid-tier for me if I had to rank the Muppet movies. Again, I don't know if you've seen this one.
No, I haven't.
You haven't? Okay, that's fine. Now to my favorite one. It's The Muppet Christmas Carol. We watch it every year. And I have an interesting story to go along with this one. So, this wasn't the first Muppet movie I've seen. I'll when we get to it, I'll tell you which one is the first Muppet movie I've seen. But I grew up more with the show than the movie. So, like, the movies, I was very vaguely aware of that there were some Muppet movies out there. This is like me when I'm, like, under the age of 10. I'm vaguely aware that there are movies with the Muppets in them, but I mainly just knew of the Muppets from The Muppet Show, and that was kind of it. So, one day, we're at the library, and this library and a couple libraries were doing it at this time where you couldn't just like pull the VHS tape off of the shelf and like, or the box off the shelf and like go to the counter. They basically like cut up the box, so you had the front, basically the front cover of the box laminated, and you'd had like the description of it on the back. So we're like flipping through these, me and my sister and my mom, kind of all flipping through these, just seeing what we would like to rent. And she asks if I've seen the Muppet Christmas Carol, and I say no. And I don't hear what movie she says. She just says, like, I don't hear the word Muppet, I just hear Christmas Carol. So I'm like, it kind of like goes in one ear and out the other. I'm like, I don't care. So she pulls that one, and we rented it along with some other VHSs that me and my sister. Well, that night, we go home, and we put the tape on, and I'm not sure what to expect, because I've never up to that point been introduced to the Christmas Carol story. I've never seen any of the other versions of Christmas Carol, and I've only seen like one Muppet movie and like a handful of Muppet Show episodes. So I'm not very familiar with everything that's about to go on. I had not seen Michael Caine in any film. So we get to this, and I'm enjoying it up until right before Marley Brothers show up. That scene right up till then actually does scare me, and I'm like covering my eyes, I hide myself underneath the pillow, because I'm thinking, oh, this is turning into a horror movie. And then no, the Marley Brothers come up and they do their thing, and they sing the Marley Brothers song. And yeah, after that I like watched it 5 more times before we had to return it to the library. And then a couple years later we got it as a DVD as a Christmas gift, and I just watch it, and now I watch it every year leading up to Christmas Day. And yeah, it's not only my favorite Muppet movie, but it's my favorite rendition of the Christmas Carol. I have seen other versions of the Christmas Carol. After this movie, after I watched the Muppet one, I kind of went back to the library and like try to find like every version of the Christmas Carol that I could find that they had to watch. So I've seen a lot of like the classic ones, a lot of the ones that are considered like the greats. And I do understand they are very good. But there's just something about the Muppets and the Christmas Carol story that just kind of works really well. Other than that, the music is great. I sometimes I'll have these songs stuck in my head even when it's not Christmas time. The puppetry is great. Brian Henson did a really good job directing, because for y'all that don't know, Jim Henson had just passed away just a couple years before this movie came into production. So this was his son taking the reins, and he had been working along with his dad for decades now, but this was his first time directing a Muppet movie, and he knocked it out of the ballpark there. And of course, Michael Caine is great as Scrooge. Probably if you know the movie, you know the bit of the history that Michael Caine went into the movie not as if it was just another version of Christmas Carol, not another version of the Muppets. So he didn't treat the Muppets as puppets, he just treated them as like other actors on a stage, and that's why he gives such a raw performance there. He's not really hamming it up, he's just performing it as if he were just performing it like on a stage, or like any other movie that he does. This is also when we are getting the first time of Rizzo and Gonzo team up that would kind of go on throughout the rest of the 90s and into the 2000s there for a bit. And it's like my favorite duo of Muppets there. And yeah, I could go on about this movie for hours now, but we still got other movies to talk. So your thoughts, because you've watched this movie with me, I know not hundreds, but dozens of times.
I honestly hadn't seen it until we started dating. It's good. I don't have anything extra to add to it because you already said it all. So yeah, I don't really have anything extra to add to this because you said it all. But it's good. It's my favorite out of the Muppet movies. I really remember the level for it in the racing game. It's a fun little janky game if you guys want to check it out.
I might talk about it someday. I personally didn't enjoy it, but she enjoyed it. It's one of her childhood video games, so we'll probably talk about that game someday. Next is Muppet Treasure Island. So this is I like this. I like this movie as a Muppet movie. I don't like it as a Treasure Island movie, just because it changes like a lot in their character wise to make certain, like they have Ben be Miss Piggy, and it's a love interest with Kermit's character, which is really really weird. I really think that they I know they were like, they always have to have Miss Piggy in here somehow, but I'm like, you really could have given her any other part and it would have made more sense than have her be Ben of all people. Or I think it's, was it Benita or whatever they do for the, anyways. But yeah, the music is still great. Freaking Tim Curry as Long John Silver is like the perfect casting. And yeah, it's one of those things where it's like Michael Caine performed as if all the Muppets were human. Tim Curry performed as if he was a Muppet. And it's great because he just has that over-the-top performance that really, it just works not only for the Muppets, but as the character of Long John Silver. I still think the Disney version of Treasure Island is my favorite version of Treasure. Okay, no, I'm sorry. Treasure Planet is the best version of Treasure Island. But if I'm having to choose a live action version, I'm going to go with, like, I think it's the 1960s version as my favorite version of that story. Anyways, going back to the Muppet Treasure Island, it's great set-wise and music-wise. Story-wise, there's just some characters and scenes that just don't really work for me. Miss Piggy, I'm not a big fan of Fozzie's character in this. He plays a little too dumb, in my opinion, and Fozzie has never been dumb. He's just always been aloof. But for some odd reason, he's like really dumb in this movie. Gonzo and Rizzo, of course, are great, as well as the human lead. This is one of the few movies that actually doesn't have a lot of guest cameos in it. They kind of stopped doing that starting with Christmas Carol, and they kind of just kept going for this movie too, whereas the celebrities are in the film, and so it's Tim Curry for this one, and it's Michael Caine for Christmas Carol. So yeah, I do still, the soundtrack is still like one of my favorites Muppet soundtracks, though, especially the intro song. It really sets you up for this movie, and then like it sets you up like it's going to be like a kind of a darker film kind of thing, because it talks about death and pirate stuff. But then after that, it's Cabin Fever is still a great song to dance to, though. So this one is also going to be like a middle tier Muppet movie for me. Definitely above Manhattan, but I don't know where I would rank it after that. What were your thoughts on this movie?
I don't like it.
You don't like it?
I don't like it.
Really?
I'm not a huge fan of the Muppets overall.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also not a fan of the story for Treasure Island.
Fair enough.
It's not my thing.
Gotcha. Muppets from Space is the first Muppet movie I saw in theaters. And it's like, technically it's the first Muppet movie I've seen now. There are stories that I saw the Muppet movie way back when I was really little, but I don't really have any memory of that. Whereas Muppet from Space, I remember going to the theater, getting popcorn. I didn't know what movie we were going to go see, But I did see on like the little list of movies when you go and buy the tickets, Muppets from Space being listed there. And so I like point out to my mom, I was like, hey, look, there's a Muppet movie playing. Not realizing that's the movie we're going to go see. So get in theater, sit down like, oh, yay, we're watching the Muppet movie. As a child, I really enjoyed this film. As an adult, yeah, this one's got a lot of issues with it. One, it's not a musical. So until the very end, for some odd reason, they decide, let's have a musical number at the very end. And I'm just like, it's not in the spirit of the Muppets. I don't know why we don't have music going throughout this one. This is kind of where we get Pepe the Prawn. I don't know if he showed up in... There was a show around the same time called Muppets Tonight. I haven't watched much of that show, so I don't know which one came first, Muppets Tonight or Muppets from Space, and then I also don't know which one Pepe showed up in first, this or Muppets Tonight. So if this is his first introduction, it's a great first introduction to a character that would go on to be like one of the pinnacle Muppet characters. And this was like when this was a Gonzo movie, so it's great seeing Gonzo as the forefront character there, which means we don't get a lot of Rizzo and Gonzo, even though we kind of do. It's more Rizzo and Pepe, and after this movie kind of keep going with that. They put Pepe and Rizzo together a lot to play off of each other, which, I mean, it's fine. I just feel Rizzo and Gonzo was a better duo than Pepe and Rizzo, but that's just my opinion. Yeah, everybody else kind of gets pushed to the wayside there. The intro is cool to see all the Muppets, for some odd reason, living all together. I don't know. I feel like you could have done a whole movie just about that, but yeah, sure. Muppets find out Gonzo is an alien, which I guess makes sense because of how he looks, but at the same time, I kind of like that he was not supposed to be an alien. He was just like most of the other movies, he's a whatever. So putting them, I was like, oh, he's an alien. I was like, it takes away some of that ambiguity of him being weird and stuff. But I digress. Yeah, it is a bottom tier Muppet movie. It's not the worst Muppet movie. We don't own the worst Muppet movie, but it is down there for me. I
don't think I've seen this one.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll watch it one day, but I'm just going in there now. Keep your expectations low.
If my expectations are already low because I'm not a fan of the Muppets, how much lower can they get?
Trust me, they can get much lower. Looking at you, Muppets Wizard of Oz. Muppets Christmas Letters to Santa. I bought this one because I saw it at a Goodwill and I bought it. And it's a cute Muppet movie. This is back when they were just doing television specials, like, movie specials, or television movie specials. I don't know if I'll even watch this one ever again. I might eventually go back and watch it because sometimes I just gotta get on a Muppet hook and I gotta watch everything Muppet, so I'll just watch all the Muppet movies. So I will get to this one. It's kind of a basic plot. The letters need to be sent to Santa, and the Muppets are like the only characters that are willing to do it. So whole little gung-ho adventure. Muppets and Christmas just go really well together, obviously. So they try to put them in like the Christmas setting whenever they can, which is fine. I don't mind it. But it's not one of their better Christmas movie television specials. I do know that you have seen this one. Do you have any thoughts on it?
No. I don't remember anything about this one.
And last but not least, the 2011 movie, The Muppets. Yeah, this is a great movie. Jason Segel, please make another script. Please, you just keep writing Muppet movies. Because, dang, this was a great one. Yeah, we're doing the whole let's get the game back together trope that we've already done twice. But, I mean, to be fair, it had been over a decade since the previous theatrical film. and it had even been longer since they did one that was just about them performing. All the guest cameos are great. Jason Segel and Amy Adams are great as the human characters. Walter is great as the new Muppet, which is... I always thought they were going to, like, show that, like, his mom and dad were, like... Oh, I forget their names. Wanda and the other human Muppet character that they showed on the Muppet Show a lot. But no, he's just another little random human, what... I guess, kind of what-not puppet. He's not specifically a what-not puppet, but he's in that same vein. I love that half the movie is just the Muppet Show. I really wish this was like the catapult to them just doing a new season of the Muppet Show. Like, come on, Disney. Yeah, the Muppets, period, 2014, whenever that show came out. That was fun, but, I mean, we really just want more seasons of the Muppet Show. It works. It just works. Come on. Anyways, back to the movie. Music is great. All the Muppets are great in it. Also, I like 80s Robot. He's a great addition to the cast there. And yeah, this is one of the films I saw twice in theaters. I saw it once when I was on vacation visiting my mom, and then when I came back, I was in high school when this happened. So when I came back, because I lived with my dad at the time, I was like, we need to go see this movie. So I saw it twice. And then I bought it the day it released, which was a rarity for me at the time because I was still in high school, but I saved up my allowance. And I was like, as soon as this movie drops, I'm going to buy it. And I did. I went to Walmart that day, picked up a copy, and I still own it to this day, and it's great. Your thoughts?
I actually really enjoy this one, and it is because of Jason Segel. He sells every single moment in it. It's a really great movie. It's a lot of fun. There is more Miss Piggy than I would like, because I really don't like Miss Piggy.
I will say it's funny they got Emily Blunt just to play her character from
Devil Wears
Prada, and it's basically the same thing that's going on.
That's great. The way that they kind of like work in more pop culture stuff from around that time is fun. Jack Black is a great cameo in it.
Childish Gambino's in it too for a brief second.
It is a really cute, fun movie. It's one of the few Muppet movies that I genuinely enjoy.
And that's going to be it for the Muppet movies. What are our thoughts on the show? Well, you'll have to wait until we get to the let's talk about shows we own. Because that will be what we... You think we own a lot of movies? Just wait. We own a lot of shows. So yeah, we still got other movies to talk about. Also, yeah, there's a couple Muppet movies we own. They're on VHS. We'll talk about those when we get to them. Muppets 2, or The Muppets Again, I was not a fan, and I remember you not being a fan either.
Yeah.
It really...
Was it Muppets Again, or was it Muppets Most Wanted?
Most Wanted. It had so many titles. By the time that movie came out, I forgot. I didn't even see this one in theaters. Like, by the time it came out, I didn't want to see it anymore because and so we rented it, and like I was like, wow, I haven't been this disappointed in a Muppet movie since Muppets Wizard of Oz. It's not as bad as Wizard of Oz, but it is down there for me. I get some people enjoy this one. Some of the big Muppet fans are like, why does everybody hate this film? This is more in line with the Muppets' sense of humor. I'm like, but it's just the Great Muppet Caper again. But like less funny, and
they bait and switched us with that Tom Hiddleston cameo. They made him think it was going to be a bigger deal, and it really wasn't, and I was upset.
And I don't really like the villain. Like, okay, it's an evil Kermit. I'm like, really? We're doing
give us a good meme, though.
It did give us a very good meme. I will give it that, but I always hate it when they're like, what's the next villain we can do? Let's just do an evil version of that character. I'm like, I really don't like that trope. It's so overdone, and it never works. It never works. And it doesn't work in Muppets Most Wanted. And moving on, I'm going to let you talk about this movie,
Okay, so the next one is The Wonderful World of Disney's Music Man, which has Matthew Broderick and Kristen Chenoweth as your leads. So already I'm hooked because I'm a huge Kristen Chenoweth fan. But it's just The Music Man. If you've listened to the soundtrack or seen the stage play or literally anything associated with Music Man, you know the storyline. A con man comes in and tries to swindle everyone out of their money by selling things that he doesn't actually have access to. And ends up actually falling in love with the town and everyone around and doesn't actually want to leave. It's cute. It's cute. It's Music Man. Could they have gotten a stronger singer than Matthew Broderick for the lead? Of course. Did they? No. That's my main issue, is Matthew Broderick, which sucks when the main character is your main issue. He is charming in it, though. They just needed someone with a stronger voice.
Yeah, I've got to agree there. Like, the entire cast is great, but then you've got Matthew Broderick. That's... he's supposed to be, like, conniving, I guess, type of character. I've seen the original. And he just doesn't come off that way, because it's freaking Matthew Broderick. He does great as, like, more of the timid character, but in this, he's not supposed to be timid, but he still comes off as timid.
He also does charmingly deceptive well, because he is Ferris Bueller.
Barely. Like, it doesn't work for this film. I feel like pretty much anybody else would have done a better job. Kristen Chenoweth is great, but it's Kristen Chenoweth. And yeah, just as she said, if you've seen the show and you know what you're getting into, if you listen to the music, you know what you're getting into. Yeah, and that's all.
A very straightforward adaptation.
It is straightforward. It is just straight. Really, nothing changes.
But that's also one of the benefits of it, is if you really like the stage production of Music Man, you're gonna get basically the stage production of Music Man in a film version, so that you can watch it at home and you don't have to shell out the money to go to a theater to see it when it's performed live.
I prefer the original 1960s rendition of it.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna let you start with this next movie too.
Okay, so the next one was my very first movie in theaters ever. My grandpa took me to see Mulan when it came out, and for the most part in the movie I was really excited. I loved every second of it. But then you get to the scene where they're in the snow, on the mountainside, and the avalanche starts, and it got too loud for me, and I freaked out a little, because at home when we're watching movies, my parents could turn it down if it was getting too loud. Can't do that in a movie theater. So I'm sitting there like covering my ears saying, Grandpa, it's too loud. I'm getting upset but still wanting to watch the movie because it's so good. And I became obsessed with this movie, especially once I learned when we got it at home, I could make the avalanche sounds quieter.
Yeah, so I grew up seeing trailers for this a lot. We did eventually rent it. And it is fine. The music is great for it. I just wasn't at that age where I was really interested in Mulan. I've gone back and watched it. I'm like, yeah, no, this is a really good one. But yeah, I don't have a lot to say because, I mean, it's a classic, Disney Renaissance era movie that I've probably only seen like a handful of times.
It's pretty quotable.
It's very quotable.
Yeah, especially the grandma.
It is. Yeah, she is.
Also, I love the fact that the dog's name is Little Brother, because then I got to say my little brothers were dogs.
You want to talk about the sequel really quick?
The sequel's okay.
Yeah.
There's no real new ground being tread, honestly. You get the 3 friend characters a little bit more fleshed out, but I really hate that they took all the character development for Shang and squashed it.
Mm-hmm.
Like they turned him into kind of a really unlikable dude for the second one, and it upset me because they spent this entire first movie laying the groundwork for him, and then they just destroy it to make him a jerk in the
just
second
so
one.
that by the end of it
They could end up right back where they were
right
in the
back
first
where
one.
they were in the first one. I was like, okay, why? All right, so just like every time these come up, I do have to put this little notice in here as to why they're included in the Disney section, because at the time of when these movies were being released, Disney had the rights to release them here in America, the Studio Ghibli films, and with the help of John Lasseter. So so many of the versions of these movies we own, they're under the Disney banner. They got the Disney logo on the DVD case. They have trailers for the other Disney movies when you place them in, and sometimes they even have a little introduction by John Lasseter. So yeah, most of these Studio Ghibli films that we're going to talk about are in the Disney movie section. So we're going to talk about a couple of them. First off, My Neighbor Totoro. This is not one of the first movies I saw, but it is the first one I saw on television. Disney did show it one day when they were just showing movies. And yeah, it's a freaking classic. It is very cozy. And freaking Totoro is adorable. He's just one of the cutest damn things to ever exist on screen, and I love every bit of it. When people say my favorite movie of Studio Ghibli is Totoro, I'm like, of course, yeah, I mean, I don't gatekeep. I don't care what your favorite Studio Ghibli film is, but there's some people that are just like, oh, you only like Totoro? That's so big. I'm like, because it's such an adorable movie. And both, I'm talking about the dubbed version, so both Fanning kids are really good in this as well, both Dakota and Elle. So it's, it's kind of cool that they were able to find two actresses that are actually sisters to play the two sisters. So I feel like there's a bit more of a vibe, that they're like a more actual sibling energy that's in like their recordings than if you just got two kids that aren't siblings to pretend that they are. I don't like all the little what ifs, little scenarios that people are thinking. Is like, no, stop that. This is like, there's no death, nobody died in this. Please stop trying to look at this with a different way than what actually is occurring on the screen there. And yeah, absolutely adorable. Your thoughts?
This is my favorite Ghibli movie. And like you said, like, if this is your favorite one, it's not to say that the other ones aren't great. It's just sometimes you want something so sweet and so cozy and so comfy. And this fits all of that. And it's also still interesting enough to not put you to sleep. Mm-hmm. So it's one of the few movies that I consider a perfect movie. I love everything about this. It is the calmest, chillest thing. It's unlike some Studio Ghibli movies where the adult characters are making really stupid decisions and putting kids in danger. This one they're not. This one did not stress me out at all. It's all comfy, cozy vibes. I love everything about this.
No mom from Ponyo.
No mom from Ponyo. Oh, no.
So next is My Neighbors, the Yamadas. So this is Studio Ghibli, but it's not... the director was not Hayao Miyazaki. I forget his name off the top of my head. But he's the... If it's not Miyazaki, it's this guy. Yeah, this is like a slice of life, kind of semi-episodic kind of thing of just this family, the Yamadas, just going day-to-day life, the mom, the dad, the grandma, then the sister and brother, and just, little kind of almost Simpsons-esque things that they get into that happen to them. There's no like overarching plot. The movie just kind of ends with them going to, I think it's the dad's retirement, or he's going to somebody else's retirement. there and the saying "Que sera sera." So yeah, it's also got a really interesting art format where it looks like it's mostly like watercolor type of art as opposed to just the usual ink and pen that they do. I know you've seen this once, and
It was okay. I wasn't a huge fan of the art style. I don't mind the fact that it's slice of life. I just wish the characters were a little more likable. The characters aren't really all that likable. I'm not a huge because I'm so used to a certain art style with Studio Ghibli that this one was harder for me to get into. But yeah, it's fine.
and then another one, Nausicaa and the Valley of the Wind. Yeah, this one's just a really cool one. I believe this one is based off of a manga. And I also believe, and I may be getting this wrong, but I think this is the first Studio Ghibli film before it was even considered Studio Ghibli. This is just Hayao Miyazaki's like first director film, I think, if I'm remembering everything correctly. So, but yeah, so this is like a alternate universe, post-apocalyptic world type of thing here, and there's like, if you need to go outside, you have to have these like masks because the plants give off like this toxic pollen and stuff. But Nausicaa's like has her own little secret garden that she's getting plants that don't do that. And then there's a whole war kind of being broken out between these two facets groups, but there's really not. It's a whole thing there. This isn't one of the movies that I'm like, if I were introducing somebody to Studio Ghibli, I wouldn't start with this film. This is like one I'd like would show them after they've seen a couple of them. Like after you've seen Totoro and like Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle, then and maybe a couple others, then I would show them this, because it's a lot more heavier of a plot and theme as opposed to some of his other films. What were your thoughts on this one?
I honestly don't remember. Like, this one didn't stick with me. It wasn't all that memorable. They've done better movies. It's there.
And now for something completely different. So I'm gonna let you start on this one.
So this is the movie version of Newsies. Disney has done also a filmed version of the Broadway show that's also under the Disney bubble. But this is the movie that the stage show is based off of. And if you have the option of the movie or the stage show, watch the stage show. The performances are stronger. But this is pretty good. It does get the point across. It does show you, the struggle that the kids are going through. It is talking about the newsboy strike at the turn of the century. They could have found a better Jack Kelly than Christian Bale because he doesn't really have a singing voice. And Jack Kelly's supposed to be a pretty good singer. I mean, there's a reason Jeremy Jordan plays him in the stage show. And it ain't because Christian Bale's a good singer. The choreography for it, though, is iconic. It's fantastic. They do carry a lot of that over into the stage production. I do like some of the character swaps they do from film to stage, because the way they kind of work the love interest for the movie in is kind of awkward.
Whereas they just replaced Bill Pullman's character, right?
Yep, and they make it the daughter of one of the newspaper big leagues in the stage production, and that works better than having it be the sister of the kid he's befriended, whose parents are down on their luck. And it's kind of awkward. It's kind of doesn't really seem to fit very well, and it doesn't add anything. A little shoehorned. Yeah, it doesn't add anything to the story either.
Yeah.
This is honestly kind of a placeholder until Disney gets off their butts and gives us a physical copy of the Newsies stage show, because that has my heart. And this is just, it's a placeholder in a way that if I don't have access to Disney Plus, I can still watch Newsies.
Yeah, so I was introduced because I had never heard of Newsies up until I started dating Shelby. And so I was not aware of the movie, the music, any of it. So my first introduction was the Broadway version that Disney released on Disney Plus, or the Pro Shop version of that, and I really got into it. I really like the music. I really like the story, and the acting is great. Of course, Jeremy Jordan is great in it. But then she mentioned, is like, oh well, this is based off of a just straight up Disney movie from the 90s. I was like, really? Well, I have to check it out, and we eventually did. I was like, yeah, everything she said, I agree with. It is, you can see what they're going for. It has got the bones of what would eventually become the Broadway musical. But yeah, stuff like Christian Bale doesn't work. Bill Pullman is fine, but he too is not really a good singer. So when he's doing his version of King of New York, you're like, ooh, yikes. Yeah, the love interest in the movie doesn't work as well as how they work it in the Broadway musical version. And just like overall, it's kind of a mad Disney film. If you've never heard of it, I would not blame you, because yeah, it's honestly pretty forgettable as a movie. It does still have some of the songs in there, but the Broadway versions, of course, are better in it. And yeah, it is an interesting little nugget of a film there.
We do have kind of a cute first introduction to anything Newsies for you, because you didn't really get introduced to any of it until our honeymoon.
Yeah, I didn't even know that was from Newsies. We just were at I don't remember where we were.
We were at the America Pavilion, and this group of singers came out.
At Disney World, by the way.
And they're doing selections from Newsies, and then they get to Seize the Day, and I start freaking out because I'm really excited because I love that song. And you're just kind of sitting there halfway looking at them and then looking at me like vibrating next to you.
Yeah, I didn't know why you were, because it wasn't just Newsies. They were just singing like Americana musical pieces there, and then they start singing stuff from Newsies that I'm like, I don't know what this is. So I assumed it was for the show. I just, because this is like the lead up to the Hall of Presidents little ride thing, sit down theater animatronic show.
No, Hall of Presidents was in Magic Kingdom. This was in Epcot.
Was this in Epcot? Mm-hmm. All right. So Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah, I've got an interesting story like this one for this one. So I was at a daycare, back in, this would have been 1997. And one day after we all got up from our nap, the person that like watches the kids, it's like, okay, everybody sit around, we're gonna watch a movie. And when they put on Night Before Christmas, and I did not know what was going on, and they get to the part of the movie very early on where it's the monster under the stairs, and he pops out, and I freak out. And I like go and like, you could either watch the movie or like play with some like toys. I went and played with some toys. And then like soon after that, my mom picked me up. So I was like, oh, thank God. And then I didn't watch it ever again until they start doing their 3D re-releases in 2008. I got really into it. And what's funny is at the time I was like really into my anything weird I will watch stage. I mean, I still am, but like this was like anything weird you want to show me, I will watch it without question. And so they're doing all the advertisements on Disney, and my sister at the time was still pretty like, I don't want to watch anything weird or creepy or dark or spooky or anything like that. So she would ask me to turn off. I was like, nah, I gotta watch everything like this. So and then we did go and see it in 3D, and it kind of flipped. So when I finished watching the movie, I'm like, it is okay. It is not as weird as or as dark as I thought it was going to get. And my sister really got into it. So my sister loves this film. She is one of those people that in high school was wearing all the Night Before Christmas Jack and Sally stuff and had the Nightmare Before Christmas revisited or whatever soundtrack that got re-released around that time. And yeah, you know, that kind of goth chic kind of look going on there. She was into all that. Whereas I'm like, it's okay. And I still have that thought of, it's okay. It's fine. As I said earlier in my last video when we talked about James and Giant Peach, where everybody's like, Nightmare Before Christmas is Henry Selick's best film, and I say James and the Giant Peach is his best film. This is why, because I'm like, yeah, it's cool, and you know, there's that whole history behind it and it just become this kind of big pop culture icon for both Disney as well as just, you know, the millennials mainly in general just really got into this with the art and the makeup and everything. And I see it and I understand why, but at the same time I'm just like, it's okay.
See, I really enjoy Nightmare. I don't think there's ever been a time in my life where I didn't know of its existence. It's just kind of
because it came out in 1993.
Well, yeah, but it's also we kind of started watching it immediately. So it's like that and Hocus Pocus. I don't remember a time where I didn't
because both came out in 1993.
I know. We're both born in 1993, but I didn't expect. Like, you know, there's movies that came out before we were born where I distinctly remember when I watched them for the first time. But these two particular movies that came out the year we were born, and I just remember always watching them. So I kind of grew up with Nightmare, and for me it's a fun little turn your brain off and sit back and enjoy a movie, and I do love the soundtrack. The revisited soundtrack where it's a lot of bands covering it, I do have most of those. There are a couple that I don't have on principle.
Fair enough. For Oliver and Company, I didn't watch this one until very recently, and it's kind of the same thoughts I have with most of the Disney movies that are just about animated animals. It's not my thing. It's just animals being cute, and I just can't ever get into it. I do love the Why Should I Worry song. That is a good song. I've seen this film a handful of times too, and I really just don't care. I know this is one of your favorites though.
It really is. This is one of my favorite Disney movies. It's also my favorite Disney animal movie, not including Stitch. Oliver's adorable. I love all the dogs. Bette Midler as Georgette was fantastic. Again, just following the trend of there's the Broadway star in the Disney movie, I'm probably going to lose my mind over it. The soundtrack is really earwormy, gets stuck in my head a lot, especially Why Should I Worry, Streets of Gold. Those get stuck in my head all the time. It really bugs me that they're not on Spotify. But it's a really fun story. It is basically just Oliver Twist, but with animals.
I think that's maybe the reason why I'm just don't care for his Oliver. I never really got into
huge into Oliver Twist.
Oliver Twist outside of the musical. I do like the musical.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun. Disney has this habit of taking like classic novels and say, let's make it the classic novel, but with animals.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times it works pretty well. This is a case of it works well. People just need to actually sit down and watch it because it's a good movie.
I haven't seen this next one, so I'm gonna let you talk about it.
So we have this because it was on it was on my Amazon wish list because I remember watching it when I was in school.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is a Wonderful World of Disney adaptation of another stage musical.
You want to say the title?
Once Upon This Mattress. I believe that it's a Princess and the Pea retelling. So I actually haven't watched this one in years, so I don't remember much of it. But it, like all Wonderful World of Disney ones. It's basically shot for shot what the stage show is, but filmed.
Okay.
So it's good. I remember it being good. I remember enjoying it.
I don't like the pacifier.
I love the pacifier.
I don't like it.
I love the pacifier.
That's all I gotta say. I don't like it.
I really enjoyed this one growing up. My brothers and I watch it all the time. Possibly because my mom's a pretty big Vin Diesel fan, so this was kid appropriate, and also my mom would get to stare at Vin Diesel for 90 minutes. I do like the one scene that always just kind of makes me chuckle is when Vin Diesel's character thinks the oldest son has become like a neo-Nazi, but really he's just a theater kid doing Sound of Music. Because he's got the arm patch, and he catches him with the arm patch, and he starts freaking out, and he's just like, no, we're not dealing with this.
Yeah.
And so he follows him, trying to figure out where he's meeting up with these people, and it's in the school, and then he's getting on stage, and then he starts singing 16 going on.
Oh.
And he goes, oh, he's a nerd. And just embraces it, and he really becomes like a big part of the family and really cares for all the kids, and it was a lot of fun for me growing up. Possibly part of the reason why I became a theater kid.
And see, the reason, it's nothing against Vin Diesel or the movie in general. I've just never been a fan of the, let's get this really tough guy actor to be like in charge of taking care of a family, mainly taking care of little kids, because they do it like every 5 to 10 years is a new one that comes out. Like the most recent one is that firefighting one with John Cena. They do it every 5 or so years. They just get whoever's the big name talent that's mainly seen as like the macho muscular kind of dude is in a lot of action films, and let's put him in a kids film. And I've never cared. I didn't care for this one. I didn't care when Jackie Chan did it. I didn't care when Hulk Hogan did it. I just don't care.
Also, The Rock with Game Plan.
Yep.
I really like Game Plan too.
Or he's kind of in there, but not really. The guy that does Tow Mater's voice with the Tooth Fairy movie. Yeah. Anyways, Parent Trap, is this the Lindsay Lohan version?
I believe so, yes, because I preferred the Lindsay Lohan version.
So this was like my first introduction to Lindsay Lohan's films. I'm pretty sure it was most kids' introductions to Lindsay Lohan's films. And I thought there was 2 of them growing up until much later, and then I was like, oh, there's only one actress. Well, they did a really good job of getting 2, but that's kind of, even the original movie, it's just the one actress, and they doubled her. But they did, the technology was a lot better in the 90s than it was when they originally did it in the 60s or 50s. But yeah, it is the Parent Trap story. Is about the kids separated at birth, go to the same camp, find out they're twin, switch places, get the parents back together, and everybody lived happily ever after. Yay. But it's, it's a cute Disney film, and I will not be surprised in the next couple years they say they're remaking it, because it has been a while.
I really enjoy this one. I do like that they kind of lean into the fact that the parents aren't the best parents, because everyone else in their life clocks that the twins have switched before the parents clock that the twins have switched.
Because I know the dad's Dennis Quaid, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the mom has passed. Like, she passed back when we were in high school. I don't remember. I think it's Natasha Richardson.
I just know the stepmom is from Galaxy Quest. So anytime I'm seeing her, I'm just like, hey, wait!
That is one of the few things that the dad does right, is he picks the girls over the fiance.
Yeah.
He does once he clocks that she's not a good person, he does, kick her to the curb. Lindsay Lohan does a great job as both Hallie and Annie. She does great. I tear up twice every time I watch this movie. Once when the housekeeper, nanny, the one that works for the dad, registers that it's Annie instead of Hallie because she took care of both girls when they were born, and when the grandpa registers that it's Hallie and that the girls have swapped, and it's so sweet in both cases, and I tear up both times because they both have such sweet, genuine reactions to it. And it's just a very, very cute, sweet movie. They have both girls do a really good job. I do think this movie is kind of what prompted a whole bunch of teen girls in our generation to pierce their own ears. Instead of going and getting them pierced by a professional in a clean, sterile environment.
Or going to Claire's and getting the person at the desk to pierce your ear. Or going to Walmart.
Just give me a potato or a lemon or something to put behind my ear after I numb it with an ice cube, and I'm just gonna go for it.
Do not do that. All right, and finally, we're going to talk about the whole trilogy, even though we only own 2 and 3. We've seen 1 so many times. It is a classic. It's a great film. I love it from beginning to end. It's the most quotable out of the 3. It's a great beginning to a trilogy that kind of falters by the third one. And even gets worse as time goes on with the 4, 5.
Stopped at the third one.
It really should have stopped with 3. And now I think they're talking about rebooting it. I don't know.
Possibly.
But the first one is great. It's fun. The second one builds off of that. We get more characters introduced to it. And we get a lot of cool stuff in it that gets introduced. Like Davy Jones is great. The third one is like the third one's the one of it I saw in theaters, and yeah, it's as bad as people talk about it. It really feels rushed, and they try to introduce a whole bunch of stuff that just doesn't make sense. And it just kind of, it's pretty forgetful. Like, I remember like 1 or 2 scenes, but outside of that, I really couldn't tell you anything other than the ending. I can tell you the ending. But the first one's great, and the second one's a good sequel. But the third one just kind of falters. Your thoughts?
So with Pirates 1, I really do enjoy that one. It's a lot of fun. It's a good setup to get you ready for everything that's going to be going down. And I like the focus becomes less on Jack the further you get into the series. Because, yeah, he's a cool character, but he's kind of one note.
He is.
And I like to see more character development than we get with Jack for most of it. So to see Will and Elizabeth's characters develop more as we go further into the series does, scratch happy parts of my brain, which is why I actually really enjoyed the third one.
I know, yeah, because that's when she's
It's Elizabeth's movie.
Yeah, it is.
So, like, all the guys I went to school with hated the third one because all of a sudden it's all about the girl. While all the girls I knew were just cheering, we were so excited and we loved it.
And that's not why I don't like that film. I just don't think it's a good third film. Like, it tries to tie everything up by also introducing a bunch of other stuff that just really shouldn't have been introduced.
And see, I don't really hate it. It's kind of like everything's going so fast because of the lives they're living that everything has to get introduced quickly. And I don't hate it. I really enjoy the movie as a whole. And especially the silliness that's in the wedding scene in the middle of a fight. Like, that was fun for me. I really enjoyed that scene. So yeah, and the reason we only have the second and third one is because I used to have the first one, but then one of my friends stole it.
And we just haven't gotten around to replacing it.
Because again, it's a case of we try to find it in the wild instead of ordering it off Amazon.
Yeah.
We just haven't found it in the wild yet.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole trilogy is really great. Once you get past the third one, gets messy, and I don't like it from there.
All right, and that'll be it for this month's videos. Tune in next month where we'll talk about more Disney films. We're deep into the P's now. If you, again, as I said at the beginning, if there was any movies we skipped over, we either own it on VHS or we just haven't found it in the wild yet. So comment down below and we'll let you know one way or another. And I always like to hear your thoughts on movies as well. And of course, if you enjoy hearing us, like and subscribe and check out the other Disney ones or the other just films in general. And until next time, thank you and have a good day.
Bye, everyone.